हेलो दोस्तों, बिगनर्स माइंड में आपका स्वागत है। और अभी हम कर रहे हैं इकोनॉमिक्स। ठीक है। इससे पहले की वीडियो नहीं देखी तो फिर आप जाकर देख सकते हैं, प्लेलिस्ट बनी हुई है पूरी। उसमें क्या है, 9th से लेकर के 12th तक की कंप्लीट है। अब आ जाते हैं टैक्स रिफॉर्म्स। टैक्स रिफॉर्म्स आर कंसर्न विद द रिफॉर्म्स इन द गवर्नमेंट्स टैक्सेशन एंड पब्लिक एक्सपेंडिचर पॉलिसीज which are collectively known as its fiscal policy। क्या बोलते हैं इसको, फिस्कल पॉलिसी। देयर आर टू टाइप्स ऑफ टैक्सेस, डायरेक्ट और इनडायरेक्ट। डायरेक्ट टैक्स वो होते हैं जिनको कंसिस्ट ऑफ टैक्सेस ऑन इनकम्स ऑफ इंडिविजुअल्स एज वेल एज प्रॉफिट्स ऑफ बिजनेस एंटरप्राइजेज सिंस 1991। There has been a continuous reduction in the taxes on individual incomes as it was felt that high rates of income tax were an important reason for tax evasion. It is now widely accepted that moderate rates of income tax encourage savings and voluntary disclosure of income. The rate of corporation tax, which was very high earlier, has been gradually reduced. Efforts have also been made to reform the indirect taxes levied on commodities in order to facilitate the establishment of a common national market for goods and commodities. In the year 2016, Indian Constitution was amended to empower state governments and union government to come out with the laws to impose goods and service tax. This has led to introduction of GST in India. This is expected to generate additional revenue for the government, reduce tax evasion and create one nation, one tax and one market. Another component of reform in this area is simplification. In order to encourage better compliance on the part of taxpayers, many procedure, procedures have been simplified and the rates also sustainably lowered. Foreign exchange reforms. The first important reform in the external sector was made in the foreign exchange market in 1991 as an immediate measure to resolve the balance of payments crisis. The rupee was devalued against foreign currencies. This led to an increase in the inflow of foreign exchange. It also set the tone to free the determination of rupee value in the foreign exchange market from government control. Now, more often than not, markets determine exchange rates based on the demand and supply of foreign exchange. Trade and investment policy reforms. Liberalization of trade and investment regime was initiated to increase international competitiveness of industrial production and also foreign investments and technology into the economy. The aim was also to promote the efficiency of local industries and adaptation of modern technologies. In order to protect domestic industries, India was following a regime of quantitative restrictions on imports. This was encouraged through tight control over imports and by keeping the tariffs very high. These policies reduced efficiency and competitiveness, which led to slow growth of the manufacturing sector. The trade policy reforms aimed at dismantling of quantitative restrictions on imports and exports, reduction of tariff rates, removal of licensing procedure for imports. Import licensing was abolished except in case of hazardous and environmentally sensitive industries. Quantitative restrictions on import of manufactured consumer goods and agricultural products were also fully removed from April 2001. Export duties have been removed to increase the competitive position of Indian goods in the international markets. इसके बाद आ जाते हैं प्राइवेटाइजेशन। इट implies शेडिंग of the ownership or management of a government owned enterprises. Government companies are converted into private companies into two ways: by withdrawal of the government from ownership and management of public sector companies, and or second, by outright sale of public sector companies. Privatization of the public sector enterprises by selling off part of the equity of PSEs to the public is known as disinvestment. The purpose of the sale, according to the in-government, was mainly to improve financial discipline and facilitate modernization. It was also envisaged that private capital and managerial capabilities could be effectively utilized to improve the performance of the PSU. Navratans and public enterprises policies. You must have read in your childhood about the famous Navratans or nine jewels in the imperial court of King Vikramaditya, who were eminent persons of excellence in the field of art, literature, and knowledge in order to improve efficiency, infuse professionalism, and enable them to compete more effectively in the liberalized global environment. The government identifies PSCs and declared them as Maharatans, Navratans, and Miniratans. They were given greater managerial, managerial and operational autonomy in taking various decisions to run the company efficiently and thus increase their profits. Greater operational, financial, and managerial autonomy has also been granted to profit-making enterprises referred to as mini-ratans. The central public sector enterprises are designed designed with different status. A few examples of public enterprises with their status as follow: Maharatans, Indian Oil Corporation Limited, Steel Authority of India Limited; Navratans, Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, Mahanagar Telephone Nigam Limited; Miniratans, Bharat Sanchar Nigam Limited, Airport Authority of India, Indian Railway Catering and Tourism Corporation Limited. Many of these profitable PSCs were originally from during the 1950s and 1960s, when self-reliance was an important element of public policy. They were set up with the intention of providing infrastructure and direct employment to the public so that quality and product reaches the masses at the nominal cost, and the companies themselves were made accountable to all stakeholders. The granting of status resulted in better performance of these companies. Scholars allege that instead of facilitating public enterprises in their expansion and enabling them to become global players, the government partly privatized them through disinvestment. Of late, the government has decided to retain them in the public sector and enable them to expand themselves in the global markets and raise resources by themselves from financial markets. The government envisaged that privatization could provide a strong impetus to the inflow of FDI. The government has also made attempts to improve the efficiency of PSUs by giving them autonomy in taking managerial decisions. For instance, some PSUs have been granted special status as Maharatans, Navratans, and Miniratans. Globalization. Although globalization is generally understood to mean integration of the economy of the country with the world economy, it is a complex phenomenon. It is an outcome of the set of various policies that are aimed at transforming the world towards greater interdependence and integration. It involves creation of networks and activities transcending economic, social, and geographical boundaries. Globalization attempts to establish links in such a way that the happenings in India can be influenced by array, events happening miles away. It is turning the world into one whole or creating a borderless world. आउटसोर्सिंग ग्लोबलाइजेशन क्या होता है कि पूरे अर्थ में कहीं पर भी व्यापार कर सकते हैं, बॉर्डर लेस वर्ल्ड। ठीक है, ग्लोबलाइजेशन से एक बॉर्डरलेस वर्ल्ड बन गया। आउटसोर्सिंग, this is one of the important outcomes of the globalization process. In outsourcing, a company hires regular service from external sources, mostly from other countries, which was previously provided internally or from within the country, like legal advice, computer service, advertisement, security, each provided by respective departments of the company. As a form of economic activity, outsourcing has intensified in recent times because of the growth of fast modes of communication, particularly the growth of information technology (IT). Many of the services, such as voice-based business process, popularly known as BPO or call centers, record keeping, फिर आ जाते हैं रिकॉर्ड कीपिंग, अकाउंटेंसी, बैंकिंग सर्विसेज, म्यूजिक रिकॉर्डिंग, film editing, book transcription, clinical advice, or even teaching are being outsourced by companies in developed countries to India. With the help of modern telecommunication links, including the internet, the text, voice, and visual data in respect of these services is digitized and transmitted in real time over continents and national boundaries. Most multinational corporations and even small companies are outsourcing their service to India where they can be availed at the cheaper cost with a reasonable degree of skill and accuracy. The low wage rates and availability of skilled manpower in India have made it a destination for global outsourcing in the post-reform period. World Trade Organization (WTO). The WTO was founded in 1995 as the successor organization to the General Agreement on Trade and Tariff (GATT). GATT was established in 1948 with 23 countries as the global trade organization to administer all multilateral trade agreements by providing equal opportunities to all countries in the international market for trading purpose. WTO is expected to establish a rule-based trading regime in which nations cannot place arbitrary restrictions on trade. In addition, its purpose is also to enlarge production and trade of services, to ensure optimum utilization of world resources and to protect the environment. The WTO agreements cover trade in goods as well as service to facilitate international trade, bilateral and multilateral, through removal of tariffs as well as non-tariff barriers, and providing greater market access to all member countries. As an important member of WTO, India has been in the forefront of forming fair global rules, regulations, and safeguards and advocating the interests of the developing world. India has kept its commitments towards liberalization of trade made in the WTO by removing quantitative restrictions on imports and reducing tariff rates. Some scholars question the unfulness of India being a member of the WTO, as a major volume of international trade occurs among the developed nations. They also say that while developed countries file complaints over agriculture subsidies given in their countries, developing countries feel cheated as they are forced to open their market for developed countries but are not allowed access to the market of developed countries. What do you think? The IT sector का है. IT industry is seen as a major contributor to India's exports. Indian economy during reforms and assessment. The reform process has completed 3 decades since its introduction. Let us now look at the reform performance of Indian economy during this period. In economics, the growth of an economy is measured by the gross domestic product. Look at a table 3.1. The post-1991 India witnessed a rapid growth in GDP on a continual basis for 2 decades. The growth of GDP increased from 5.6% during 1980 to 1991 to 8.2% during 2007 to 2012. During the reform period, the growth of agriculture has declined. while the industrial sector reported fluctuation. The growth of the service sector has gone up. This indicates that GDP growth is mainly driven by growth in the service sector. During 2012-2015, there has been a setback in the growth rates of different sectors witnessed post 1991. While agriculture recorded a high growth rate during 2013-14, this sector witnessed negative growth in the subsequent year, while the service sector continued to witness a high level of growth higher than the overall GDP growth in 2014-15. This sector witnessed the high growth rate of 9.8%. The industrial sector witnessed a steep decline during 2012-13. In the subsequent years, it began to show a continuous positive growth. The opening of the economy has led to a rapid increase in foreign direct investment and foreign exchange reserves. The foreign investment, which includes foreign direct investment (FDI) and foreign institutional investment (FII), has increased from about $100 million in 1990 to 91 to $330 billion in 2017 to 18. There has been an increase in the foreign exchange reserves from about $6 billion in 1990 to 91 to about $413 billion in 2018 to 19. India is one of the largest foreign exchange reserve holders in the world. Since 1991, India is seen as a successful exporter of auto parts, pharmaceutical goods, engineering goods, IT software, and textiles. Rising prices have also been kept under control. On the other hand, the reform process has been widely criticized for not being able to address some of the basic problems facing our economy, especially in areas of employment, agriculture, industry, infrastructure development, and fiscal management. Growth and employment. Though the GDP growth rate has increased in the reform period, scholars point out that the reform led growth has not generated sufficient employment opportunities in the country. You will study the link between different aspects of employment and growth in the next unit. Reforms in एग्रीकल्चर, रिफॉर्म्स इन एग्रीकल्चर ये पढ़ेंगे नेक्स्ट क्लास में.